Good morning, students. Today I am going to take a class on IC engines, internal combustion engines. It's a very important point of view in a mechanical engineering field, and also from the point of examination. I told you so many times. As a part of your syllabus, mainly there are three types of engines: 4-stroke petrol engine, 4-stroke diesel engine, and 2-stroke petrol engine. Out of these three, definitely you can expect a one question in the examination for 8 to 10 marks. Okay, so that is a very important part in this particular chapter, IC engines. Okay, brief content of this particular presentation or a class is mainly consisting of first classifications of IC engines. What are all the different parts of IC engines? IC engine terminologies, and I told you mainly there are three types of engines. One is 4-stroke petrol, 4-stroke diesel, and 2-stroke petrol engine. Okay, I will take one by one. First, the classification of IC engine. Before going to the classification of IC engine, I would like to give a brief introduction on what is IC engines. Mainly, engines are work on the principle of second law of thermodynamics. Mainly there are two types of engines. One is internal combustion engine, another one is external combustion engine. So this is a part where internal combustion engine, the name itself refers to, first of all, combustion is mainly respect to, it's just a word used for burning of fuel. Okay, so engines are especially devices which convert the combustible product or nothing but a thermal into mechanical work. Engines, if it is combustion takes place inside the engine, then it is called internal combustion engine or IC engine. If the same combustion takes place outside the engine, then it is called external combustion engine. Common example for external combustion engine are steam engine. So initially steam engines are used for locomotives. Steam engines especially having a high power obviously, but there's a lot of pollution you can expect in external combustion engine. That is what it is almost outdated nowadays. So now only we are talking about the IC engines. So mainly classification of the IC engines is based on two types. One is type of ignition and type of working cycles. Well, coming to the type of ignition nothing but it's an initiation of the combustion. So if you are going to ignite the fuel, whether it is a petrol or a diesel, if you are ignite with the help of an spark, then it is called spark ignition. Nothing but it is called Otto cycle. The name itself because the person who is designed that particular, or who is given that particular engine. Spark ignition is especially used for petrol engine. Another one is compression ignition, or nothing but a diesel cycle. The name itself indicates that Rudolf Diesel is a person who is responsible for the compression ignition. Nothing but here the ignition takes place self. It is usually ignition takes place by the compression of the fuel. Self ignition will take place. Okay. The next classification is based on the fuel, whether it is a compression ignition or whether it is a spark ignition. In the spark ignition, mainly of two types. One is with the help of carburetor, with the help of port injection or direct injection. Whereas the compression ignition mainly type of two types. One is a direct injection or indirect injection. Injection nothing but supply of air fuel mixture into the cylinder is usually termed as injection. Okay, so I will explain one by one with the help of an animatic and an two-dimensional image of an IC engine. I will explain one by one. And the next classification is based on air intake, whether it is naturally air intake or it is supercharged. Supercharged are especially used in sports car, where if you want a more power, more speed, where you can use a supercharge, or normally in your car or in your bike, it's not naturally aspirated air intake is a used IC engine. Whether it's a cooling or it's an air cooling or it's a liquid cooling. Engine cooling is also a very important thing, where much of the thermal energy has to be completely converted into the mechanical work. I told you usually the efficiency is around 35 to 40%. As much as possible you are utilizing the thermal energy to convert into mechanical, then you are on the high efficiency mode. So that is what cooling is very important, whether you are cooling with the air or with the liquid. Based on there are two classifications. This is a broader classifications of IC engines. Okay. So next I will take the very important thing is IC parts of IC engines. So this is an animated view of an IC engines, and this is an just an animated view of all the combined of IC engines. Okay, so first one, this is a camshaft, this is cam, this is spark plug. Spark plug is usually used in a petrol engine, whereas spark plug is replaced with a fuel injection system in diesel engine. This is a valve spring. In order to operate inlet and outlet valve, these valve springs are used. This is a mixture here nothing but air and fuel. So many times I told you fuel alone cannot get burnt. It needs air. So that is what here I use the word mixture. Mixture nothing but fuel plus air. Okay. Next, this is an intake valve, nothing but a fuel intake valve, and this is an exhaust valve. Combustible combustion of a fuel will usually give rise a carbon dioxide or a carbon monoxide as an exhaust gas. So exhaust gas will be go from here. This is a combustion chamber where exactly the combustion takes place. This is what we are going to call it as a cylinder. Cylinder is a very important part in IC engines, and this one is usually called it as piston. Piston is also very important. Then this one is crankcase. This one is connecting rod. This one is crankshaft. So usually reciprocating motion of the piston converted into rotary motion of the crank with the help of this connecting rod. How the reciprocating motion of the piston will be converted into reciprocating motions will be explained here. You can see that how it is moving, how the piston is moving from to and fro, and how the connecting rod is convert that reciprocating into rotary motion of the crankshaft. Okay, these are all the parts of IC engines. I will provide the PPT just to go through it one by one. I will take that. So this is a working cycle of the petrol engine. I will explain with the help of a two-dimensional diagram in the next slide. This one is called cylinder head. How the cylinder head it looks like? It's an actual image of a cylinder head. Next one is piston. Piston is very important, and some of the terminologies that you have to learn. So one by one I will take that. It is called bore. Bore is nothing but the maximum diameter of the cylinder. Is usually we are going to call it as bore. Okay. So you might have heard about that of stroke in the beginning of my slide. Stroke means if a piston is moving from extreme top position to the extreme bottom position, then it is called one stroke. So 4-stroke, 2-stroke, what I am telling that if it is a 4-stroke means the piston is moving from top to bottom, bottom to top, top to bottom, and bottom to top. 4 times it is moving from top to bottom and bottom to top. So that means in order to complete one cycle, piston is moving 4 times, 4 strokes. That is usually we are going to call it as stroke. This is called top dead center. This is called bottom dead center. A slight area will be given as a clearance volume so that it is accommodation of air fuel mixture, nothing but at the top of an exhaust or inlet valve, and to this particular position, and nothing but piston extreme position is usually we are going to call it as clearance volume. Clearance volume. Okay. This is what we are going to call it as reciprocating motion. This is what we are going to call it as rotary motion. Reciprocating motion will usually convert it into rotary motion. This is called piston, actual picture of the piston. Okay. Next one is piston rings. Piston rings are especially used just above the piston. The main purpose of these is to avoid any air gaps. Small amount of fuel leakage causes a huge loss in IC engine. So that is what these piston rings are used. It's just like a washer. That's it. Okay. This is actually the piston which is usually connected with the connecting rod. Okay. This is one image of the connecting rod. One end of that is connected to the piston, another one connected to the crankshaft. And this is what we are going to call it as crankshaft. An IC engine may be consisting of 1, 2, 3 or multiple cylinder. Usually that connecting rod will be connected to this particular portion. Okay. So this one particular portion is called as a flywheel flange. Okay. So this is a crankshaft where it is usually connected to the multiple cylinder of the IC engine. This is called crankshaft. Assume that IC engine does not consisting of a single cylinder, single piston. It consisting of a multiple cylinder and a multiple connecting, along with that it is connected to this particular crankshaft. Finally, it was connected to the pulley end. Pulley end is usually connected with the help of a chain to the wheel. Okay. This is one assembly view of IC engine. Camshaft. This is what consisting of multiple pistons with a multiple valves. Spark plugs are especially used for ignition of the fuel in petrol engine. Fuel injector. I told you fuel injection can be done through this particular type of diesel engine. Whereas petrol engine, fuel suction will be takes place in the beginning of the cycle, whereas a fuel injection in type of a diesel engine will be takes place at the end of the second cycle. I am going to explain later slides. Clutch assemblies, inlet and exhaust valve. So this is what the two-dimensional, what you have to require to write in the examination: inlet valve, outlet valve or exhaust valve, cam, crank, crankshaft, connecting rod, piston. This is the piston rings, cylinder, flywheel. So this is two-dimensional picture where you have to write it in your examination. Okay, terminologies I already explained. What is that? What is stroke? What is bore? What is reciprocating? What is rotary motion? I already explained in a previous slide. Stroke is nothing but the distance between the top dead center to the bottom dead center. The bore is nothing but it's a maximum diameter of the cylinder. Reciprocating motion is usually provided by the piston, whereas the rotary motion will be provided by the crank mechanisms. Okay, so now we are going to take a 4-stroke petrol engine, diesel engine, 2-stroke petrol engine, their working cycle. Okay, so I am going to explain the 4-stroke petrol engine in my next presentation. Thank you.